Hey everybody, it's time to go over your spelling words for this week. We're on lesson 31. Not that really matters, but let's go. Hopefully you guys have downloaded the spelling words that I sent you guys for this week, and we're gonna go over them now. Remember, I always advise going over them at the beginning of the week, and then going over them again right at the end of the week, right before you take the test. Some of the tests this past week weren't as good as they could have been. I think some of you could have done well watching this video again, then taking the test. So I would advise doing that again this week because I will ask you different questions about definitions and stuff like that. Because if I just ask you only how to spell it, a lot of times you have the word right there. So I'm asking you a little bit tougher questions because you're allowed to watch videos over and over again. So make sure you watch this again when it comes time at the end of the week. So let's go over these words. Our pattern words this week have to do with Latin roots. So these are all Latin root words. And the first Latin root is F-E-C-T. The Latin root fect means to do or to make. Affect and effect and affection and defective are our first four words, and they have to do with to do or to make. Affect and effect are actually very common. Very commonly mistaken for one another. I actually mistake these all the time. It's one of the ones I had the most trouble with. Two words that are kind of alike that are a lot alike. Affect with an A is always a verb, and it's to influence something. So if you are looking to, if you're asking if it will affect you to have, does it affect you? Does me wearing cologne affect you, or something like that? That would probably be AFFECT, where effect with an E is a cause and effect. So it's most commonly a noun. Effect can be a verb as well, but most commonly a noun. So if I was talking about a cause and effect with an E, that is usually what I'd be referring to the effect with an E. So the next word is affection. So affection, you think of love, and so with this word you can think of it has to do with to do or to make, and you have affection for somebody. So if you have affection, they are having an influence on you. But affection has to do with love and liking somebody. Defective, we see that de word oftentimes can mean the opposite of something. So defective, it's not working right. It is broken, defective. The next word, dictate, D-I-C-T, the Latin word D-I-C-T, the Latin root is to say. The word dictate means to speak. If you're dictating something, you're speaking it to them. Some people would have a writer there, and they're maybe they like to give a speech or something like that and have somebody write it down. They would dictate their speech to the person that's writing it down, and that they would be transposing it onto paper. So dictate means to say or to speak. A verdict, the next word is verdict, and Latin root ver means truth, like veritas. I don't know if you've ever heard of the word veritas, but veritas means truth. And so you put verdict with the word dict, and ver and dict together means truth, say. That's literally when you put the two things together to say the truth. When you're giving a verdict, you're saying you're in a trial, you're saying whether they're innocent or guilty, and it comes from the idea of speaking the truth about a matter as a juror or something like that. But so it's verdict is that word. Next word is prediction. We know the word part. You guys should know the prefix pre pretty well. Pre has to do with beforehand. So you have pre. We a lot of times say prediction. It almost sounds like prediction, but it's prediction. So it should be pre means beforehand. Dict means to say, and ion is something continuously, or something the act of doing something. So prediction, you're making, you're saying something before it happens. You have before, you have say, you're saying something before it happens with prediction. Then you have contradict. Contradict. The word part contra at the beginning, it's kind of like we had in the word part, one of the words last week has counter. Counter or anti is the opposite of. And so contradict, it's the opposite of and saying. So contradict is to say the opposite of. So if somebody is saying something like, waffles are the best breakfast food, and you want to contradict them, you would say, well, actually, pancakes are the best. So contradict means to go against what somebody else says, because you have contra, which is the same thing as counter, which is like anti, which is opposite of, and then dict, which is to say. So to say something the opposite of somebody else. Next word, visible. Vis, the Latin root vis means to see, V-I-S. So we have visible, and I-B-L-E means able. So visible means you're able to see it. That one's pretty straightforward, able to see. And visibility, ility or ability means just like the word sounds, ability. What's ability? It's are you able to do it? And vis means to see. So are you able to see it? Visibility is how much you're able to see. Then you have super and supervise and supervision. Remember the V-I-S in that word also has to do with seeing, looking, and super has to do with above. Super is the opposite of sub. Sub always has to do with under. Super has to do with above. Sorry, my kids are in the room now. Super has to do with above, and so supervise means to see from above. You can think of like a manager. It's somebody, if they were like overseeing everybody and being like, are you doing things right? Are you doing things right? Are you doing things right? You're supervising. And so you are seeing from above. That's supervise. And supervision is just the noun verb form of that. Supervise is a verb to do something, to actually do it, and supervision is the noun form of what you're doing. Hopefully I wasn't too confusing there. I was a little confusing at the beginning, I think. Our content words have to do with earth science. I'm a little more comfortable with these ones than Latin roots, but earth science, the first word is ozone. Ozone is a three particle layer in the atmosphere that protects against radiation. The ozone layer it helps protect against certain UV rays. UV rays are what is harmful. UVA and UVB are harmful to our skin. They can give you sunburns. One type gives you sunburns. The other type gives you like long-term wrinkles and even skin cancer in large amounts. And so the ozone layer helps protect us against those things. Part of the atmosphere. The next word, inertia. You guys should know what inertia is. It's a tendency, with our science text this chapter, it's a tendency to resist change. It wants to just keep going. That's inertia. And keep going or keep doing what it's doing even if it's sitting still. Next word is orbital. Orbital has to do with the path that a planet takes around the sun, or a moon takes around a planet. Their orbital is their path that they follow. Next word is mantle. Mantle is part of the inside of the earth. It's the outermost layer, right beneath the crust. I should say the crust is the outermost layer, and the mantle is below that. Again, nobody's actually ever been down there, so we don't know for sure, but that's what scientists are pretty sure is down there. Next word, velocity. You guys remember what velocity is? Velocity is speed with a direction, right? Next word, universe. You should know what that is. It's up there. And revolution. Revolution has to do with a path around an object as well. Orbital is the actual path, and a revolution is one time around. Okay, it's different from a rotation. Don't think of revolution. Don't get rotation and revolution mixed up. This is rotation. This is revolution. I'm revolving. I'm going around it. Okay. You're back to the prefixes, suffixes, and roots. These words. And you have the Latin root here. I'm going to look it up. I actually didn't look this one up. Accelerate is our first word with the Latin root there. The Latin root is obviously the word means to go faster. We have acceleration, we studied in science. But the Latin root is celer, which is swift, okay, which means fast, and ate means to make. But we've studied that before. So to accelerate means to make fast. And the next word, decelerate, we obviously know it means to go slower. De means off or from. So if you have celerate, to make fast from, that's literally what the word means when you break it down by word parts, but we know it means to make it go slower. So it's saying going from making it fast, so go away from it. The word bicentennial, if you look in the word there, I actually wish, you know what, I'm going to switch. On mine it says centennial first and then bicentennial second. I'm going to put centennial first on your list. So you're looking at centennial first. The word centennial, you see the word part ennial. It has the same word as it goes back to the word annum. If you guys remember from a couple of lessons ago, you had annum. It's a Latin word, Latin root for year, and then you have cent in there. So a cent, we know, like we think of like a penny has 100 cents, right? And a cent, because cent means like a centimeter. There's 100 centimeters in a meter. We think of cent, and we think of the number 100. So it says centennial. It's 100. It literally means 100 years. Ennial comes from annum, so 100 years. And you have bicentennial, and the word part bi, bi means two. So you have 200 years. A bicentennial, like the United States had its bicentennial in 1976. It was from 1776. So in 2076, if any of you guys are alive for that, which I hope you are, you will celebrate the tricentennial, and then it will be the quadricentennial, which I guarantee none of you will be alive for. So if the country is even still around by then. Now our challenge words. We have two Latin root words there too. We have vindictive and exacerbate. The first word, vindictive, the word vindicta has to do with revenge. Vindicta in Latin was revenge. And so vindictive is a characteristic of somebody who likes to take revenge. If somebody is vindictive of somebody else, that means they want to take revenge on them. And the last word, exacerbate, comes from, I thought this was very interesting, the word acerbic. If you look up the word acerbic, it means like sour and bitter. The word exacerbate itself means to make, to like increase the bitterness or increase the severity of it. Like if you had some sort of wound that was really painful and you put salt in it, it would hurt it more. You would be exacerbating it. Or if you are, I don't know, if you have a cold and you don't take care of it, you don't sleep, you are going to make your cold worse. You are exacerbating the cold. And so you're increasing the severity, you're making things worse. So exacerbate, if you break it down, it has to do with the word acerbic, which has to do with bitterness. And ate means to make, so you're like making it more bitter. And the word part X means out. So you're like, making it more, you're stretching out the bitterness of it. You're stretching out the severity of it. You're making it more and more worse with the word exacerbate. So those are your spelling words for this week. Again, go over this video again to go over these words. These are all Latin root words. And see ya.